Katie here from Ecamm.
Hi,
And
everyone.
hey, Katie, welcome to
Hey,
the.
how's it going?
All right, it's super good to have you. Um, this has been Katie and I have been kind of going back and forth and talking about something we could put together. She was very gracious to do a session, and we're going to talk a little bit about Ecamm today and go over some
Yeah,
aspects of that and do an introduction. So, Katie, I'll just give you a moment. Why don't you go just quickly, maybe if you want to introduce yourself and what your role is at Ecamm, and then we can kind of jump into maybe some specifics.
absolutely. So, hi, everyone. I'm Katie Fawkes. I'm the marketing manager at Ecamm. As John was saying, we are a Mac-based software company. We make a live streaming app called Ecamm Live. I oversee the marketing team, which is me and half of one of our other employees. So we're a small but fierce team. I've been with the group for about a year and a half, but I've been in marketing and in the marketing space for my entire career. So 10, 10 to 15-ish years at this at this
That's a
point.
that's a even though you say 15 years, I spent some time marketing myself on a different role in the past, and that's a lot of work, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to manage in terms of the
Yeah.
outbound communication and everything that goes on and involving that process. So it's not, kudos to you and the
Yeah.
and those and Katie's been very hard at work too because Ecamm Live has recently made some announcements of some new features, which today you're kind of seeing this here with the
Yeah.
interview piece and other. Maybe Katie, maybe let's just take a moment about Ecamm Live.
Hmm.
It's one of the very of the many solutions out there. But
Yeah.
for Mac in particular, right, that's been kind of a challenge of finding the right software solution that you can run. It's not browser based, but something you could
Hmm.
install and do something very similar that you would have on a, let's say, PC platform product, right, like a laptop out there in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I mean, we were completely built for the Mac platform. Our co-founders, who are twin brothers, have been doing this for about 20 or just over 20 years now, and I don't think I've ever touched a PC. So, so when we say we were built for Mac, we are entirely built for Mac, and our company is really like we follow all of the Mac principles. So, our software is meant to be really, really easy, really intuitive, but incredibly powerful and really beautifully designed. So we're here to make sure that your video quality looks, absolutely the exact way you want it to look. You have a really high quality level, but you can
sure.
start without needing too much work to get up and running. It's pretty easy and pretty intuitive to dive into.
And I think I think it's important because there are, in the past 8 months, you and I've talked about this offline, and a
Mhm.
lot of us, that are in kind of the live streaming space, and obviously Ecamm Live is one of those solutions out there. Past
Yeah.
seven, I was talking to my wife last night, and we were trying to think like, how many months has it been since March? And we're kind of going back and
No,
forth, and
how long is this year? How
how
long
long is
is
this
this year
year?
going to
And this
be?
feels
Yeah.
like not like 2020, it's like 20 years. I mean, I was like, I just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so obviously there's been a lot of I guess in one way to put it, a plethora of
Hmm.
approaches to different solutions to live streaming. And you kind of shared a little bit about where Ecamm Live comes in terms of its history and a little bit in the time and running
Yeah.
on the Mac platform. Maybe, as there's so many solutions out there, I think people kind of get, that are either new or trying to make decisions on
Mhm.
the different stages they're at in if they haven't been live streaming for a period of time and they've been doing
Yeah.
this now for 6, 7 months. From an Ecamm, from your position, where does the value in terms of the solution that Ecamm Live provides um, that you see from in the market space, right? There's so many out there, and the value can
Yeah.
some of the features.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there are a ton of tools out there, and there's more and more entering the space every single day. I don't think video is going anywhere anytime soon. I think people
No,
right now are certainly in a space where they need to be able to connect with others, whether that's just having a video meeting with team members where you're not in the same space, all the way up to running huge virtual conferences, webinars, and then live streaming kind of falls somewhere in between.
absolutely.
Software like Ecamm Live is a great uh, as I said, it's great for anyone that is new and getting started, but it's powerful enough that you can really grow with it all the way through up to some of those really complicated kind of television broadcast quality productions, which I think
Mhm.
is what makes it really unique and special in the marketplace. I think one of the coolest parts of it is that live streaming in general, there's a ton that you can do with it, but if you're really clever about it and you really start to get into it and figure out exactly what the content is that you want to share, what the frequency is, you don't need to do a ton of editing. So there's lots of us out here who are one man bands who run, we run a
Yes.
department of one or one and a half, and
Right.
so one of the benefits of it is that you're able to broadcast live, and you can have the entire show set up in advance using our
Mhm.
scenes so that you have everything planned out. You have all your graphics, you have your frames like we're sitting in right now that are all pre-planned out, so that by the time that you're done your live broadcast and you've gone out there and you've engaged with your viewers and you've done the show, you're done. You have a high res video that is on the other side that doesn't need a ton of editing past perhaps, cutting out a couple of relevant clips and being able to repurpose those
Mhm.
elsewhere. And I think that's what makes Ecamm really special, is that we every single broadcast that you do, whether you're live streaming or recording it, which is also an option, you get that high quality video recording just automatically sitting on your computer. So you don't have to worry about going back to a site, downloading it, figuring out what quality level you're able to download it in, worrying about your video timing out if you forget, or
Right.
if you just aren't able to get to it right away. So every video you create, you have it's there, it's sitting on your Mac and it's ready to go, and you can use it however you want. So we're not reducing any of the quality, we're not compressing anything. You can do with it what you want. And again, if you're clever about it, you can really do a weekly or biweekly or monthly show and not have to worry too much about that really heavy editing, because you're adding all of those elements and guests and graphics and animations and video clips in during the process of being live and during the video creation process.
Which I think is really beneficial because there's a lot that's packed into Ecamm Live, and and I've been, again, full disclosure, I've been a customer of Ecamm, um, and
Biased.
yeah, I know. I was like, I'm gonna be honest, So and I think a lot of people ask, like, well, what's this, what's that, and I think that was kind of the thing.
Yeah.
One of the items that I looked at was trying, when I stepped away from where I was at a more the more professional broadcast level, where we had
Yeah.
Black Magic gear and we had new tech switchers and all those things, was trying to understand the environment where we were going into. And I
Yeah.
think that's been fantastic. And you guys have done a phenomenal job over the past several months. You've built a great community on Facebook that I follow, and a beta group,
Yeah.
and the folks at Live Streaming Pros have been great.
Yeah.
These templates, right? There's been a lot of pieces kind of brought together to kind of help, like you said, kind of tune this so that you can fit
Yeah.
within the context of what you want to try to accomplish, whether you're an individual or you're, in a virtual event, or you're managing something for a client, or maybe you're a church, maybe you're a
Yeah.
nonprofit, right? So there's a lot of
Yeah,
options.
it fits almost any industry. I think one of
It
the
does.
most, eye-opening moments in the last few months has just been all of the different use cases. I think, I've been on the team for about a year and a half. I've known the team for a lot longer, but I was just marveled from even the difference from the day I started, and the kinds of customers that we were seeing coming through, and who we were reaching out to has changed so drastically over the last few months, as the pandemic has us all in lockdown, and as different
Hmm.
industries that would have been doing things with an audience, or
Hmm.
one-on-one with certain people, are just needing to move into this space, and
Right.
what they're doing and how they're innovating using video is phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
we have groups of magicians, for a great example. I never would have thought of magicians as a potential customer of ours, just wouldn't have crossed my mind.
Well, there you
But we
go.
have like a huge sub community of them, and
Wow.
they're doing these amazing magic shows, and they're broadcasting them out, and they're putting them behind a paywall. They're doing like private magic parties, and what they're doing and how they're interacting with their audience and bringing people on and doing these amazing tricks and illusions in front of it's just unbelievable to me, how you can use what is otherwise like a fairly simple technology, the ability to connect a camera and put out a video feed,
Yep.
and all of their creativity is just coming out in spades, and it's just been incredible to see. And that's just one. I mean, like you said, we have
There's
magicians, musicians, there's churches, there's nonprofits, and they're all finding ways to get their content out there in front of their audience, and there are so many of these like groups and niches out there that are just hungry for well produced,
Hmm.
creative community based content. So I think it's a really
Absolutely.
cool, it's a cool time to be online and to be in the world of live streaming because there's just so
It
much you can
is.
do.
Yeah. Coming from where I came from the technology industry and coming into this space
Hmm.
6 years ago, 7 years ago for myself, and obviously bringing a different level of experience to the table in terms of technology, in terms of the
Yeah.
where I was at, seeing the growth. As I told somebody one day, I said, you don't see this very often, right? These are one of
No,
the
it's
transformation of an
crazy.
industry, right?
Hmm.
And I can point back to the .com era and different, inflection points, as we would call it,
Yeah.
to look at where you saw a transition or transformation, right, in a way, in this, and it's certainly with the pandemic overnight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, just businesses that just needed to get online,
Yeah.
and I mean, to their credit, it is amazing how quickly they were able to get up and running. I mean, I have two small children and they both do karate on a regular basis, and their karate, it's this like older building, but it's this awesome dojo space, and and the team is fantastic, but it was like 2 weeks of being in the pandemic and they were like, we've moved all of our videos like on, I mean, they created all of these training and tutorial videos, then they were up and running with Zoom classes, and then they were like they were just, it was, we need to reach our community, we need to keep our business alive, we
Hmm.
have team members, we have obligations. And I mean, it was amazing how quickly they were able to pivot at a time where it was other, I mean, everything else was happening at the same time too, with all, I'm sure their families and trying to balance everything else. So it is remarkable what people have been able to do, and how quickly they were able to pivot in
Yeah.
otherwise really difficult times.
No, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. So it's like, all right, well, no, I totally agree with you, by the way. And I think this is, and I, I basically said in a couple conferences this year, it was the hair on fire moment, right?
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes people say, oh, it's rather blunt. And said, yeah, it is kind of blunt, but we have to call it for what it is, right? Because, it's not, it's just the reality of where we've gone
Yeah.
to. And to your point, as things kind of stabilize to a point,
Yeah.
we figure out what this new norm looks like. So Katie and I are going to jump into a demo and kind of
Mhm.
share my screen. I'll share my screen, and we're going to kind of walk through the Ecamm setup.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at it and have Katie kind of give us an overview. I think it'd be great because we've got her time here, and talk about some of the features with you, Katie, and
Mhm.
maybe you can kind of walk everybody kind of through what some of the key areas are, and then we'll
Yeah.
go from there.
So this is what Ecamm looks like on your computer. So John was good enough to show in our live demo mode, so you can get a real feel of what he's seeing as far as how it works as a production studio. So you'll see here in the box that John and I are in. I can only draw a
Yep.
box around my own, but the box that John and I are in is the main window of Ecamm Live, and that is the feed that you'll be putting out, whether you're recording or you're live streaming. So everything that you will be doing will appear within this main window. There's a few things within the main window that are worth noting. So we can't show you because we're in the middle of recording, but down where you see those, down here below me, where you see those pause and finish buttons, that is where you would choose your destination. So a destination could be Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or it could be, in this case, record only. So we're creating a recording. You can also use what we call RTMP streaming. So you can go out actually to anywhere you want if you have a stream key. Or you can select to go to either Restream or Switchboard Live if you have an account there that allow you to simulcast or multi-stream out to almost anywhere that you want to go, 30 plus different destinations at once, which is a really nice feature.
It
But
is.
as you're getting into the app itself, it's kind of worth thinking through, okay, down in the bottom here, where am I going out to? Make sure you're logged into the right platform. Make sure that everything is looking really good. That's also where you'll be able to schedule out any posts in advance. So if you're scheduling a YouTube live broadcast, for example, you can do all of that within Ecamm Live through that destination menu. So another kind of first starting point when you're jumping in is thinking about connecting a camera and a microphone. So seems really simplistic, but super important
Yes.
for creating video or for live streaming. So yeah, at the top menu that John's highlighting there is the camera menu. So that will show you all of the cameras that you have connected to your computer. So if you're just getting started and you've just turned on the software, you don't have anything plugged in, Likely you'll see your FaceTime camera if you have a built-in FaceTime camera into your computer. That will be an option there. Any virtual cameras will show up as well in here. So if you have something like Snap Camera, for example, if you want to get a little silly or crazy, or maybe you've plugged in your phone and you're using that as a virtual camera, all of those will show up in this area. And then you can plug in virtually any DSLR or mirrorless camera, video camera, webcam into your computer in a couple of different ways. So you can plug directly in with a USB cable for many, many cameras. We have a full list of all of the ones we support on our website. So that makes it a little bit easier if you're running, a Nikon or a Sony or a Canon, one of the popular models, most of which you can just plug in right with a USB cable. If it's not one of those cameras or you want to up the quality a little bit more, you can get what's called an HDMI encoder. So something like a Camlink 4K is a really good option. And then there are a ton of them out there, all different brands. Blackmagic makes a bunch as well. And that'll just increase the quality. Or if you have one of those cameras that doesn't plug in with a USB cable, that will allow you to plug that in. We have no limit on the amount of cameras that you can plug into your device. So as many ports as you have, as many cameras as you want to run.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the beauty of the product is it has a lot of versatility in terms of the ability to do that. The limit itself is the system you're running it on, right? And the ability to handle that amount of resources from a graphics card perspective and efficiency. So you're absolutely right. And I think that's where, different solutions provide like the ATEM minis or a Magewell or the Audio or AGA type, converters, right?
Yeah. So, however you want to plug them in, as many as you want to plug them in, they will all come into that camera menu at the top. They will also show up in what's called the video switcher. So if John hovers over this main window here, so you see he can choose to select which ones that he can put in or out of the switcher. If you jump out of that menu, John, and just kind of hover over the main window, we can show them what the video switcher looks like in Ecamm.
Sure.
It will pop up there right kind of below where our images are. It'll show you just a little tiny video preview of each of your camera, and that allows you to switch back and forth between the cameras that you've selected in the menu. So it looks like he's got his Blackmagic and then me as a guest selected as what to include in the switcher. If you click out of that, John, just back click on there you go. So see at the bottom there, those little tiny guys. Those are that is the Ecamm Live video switcher. So right there from within the video, the main window, John has the power and the ability to toggle between just showing himself or his main camera, any of his cameras. He can switch back and forth between them, choose to go picture in picture or do like a screen split like this. He's got this all planned out in a scene, so we won't force him to go back and forth, but but that is where you can certainly have the power on the fly to be able to switch back and forth between your cameras. And then at the bottom there, Ecamm has a number of these different windows, which are all of the different features. You can move them around. You can choose to have them all on the screen or remove them. The sound levels one is the one that's sitting right below the main window right now. So again, in the same way you can connect any kind of camera to your computer to use an Ecamm Live, you can also connect any kind of microphone. So again, you can use something as simple as your built-in microphone, but if you want to take it up a level, you can add a USB mic that you can plug in just directly to your computer. That's what I'm using right now. Or you can get as complicated as having, multiple microphones that are all plugged into a mixer or any of the different kinds of devices that you see in really high level, television quality broadcasts. So it really can be as simple as you want to be and as complicated as you want to be. Ecamm accepts it all, and you have the ability to control all of your sound levels and mute and unmute there within that sound menu. You'll also see in the sound menu, if you're running a movie or a video clip of any kind, it will automatically mute all of your other inputs so that it only is playing the video sound. You could obviously override that, but we do that as a setting so that if you're talking behind a video clip, no one will hear that coming out into the broadcast. So the various sound levels are there. Yeah, and it's worth saying, like those are the basics that you need in order to be able to live stream or to create videos with Ecamm is a Mac computer, the software, a camera, and a microphone. If you're going to upgrade and you're trying to kind of work your way up, we always recommend sound first and then picture, even though that may seem counterintuitive. Your sound is so incredibly important to the quality of your broadcast. So even if you're only spending like me, $100 for a USB mic. It's tiny and cute. You see here on
Yeah,
camera,
those are
my tiny
perfect.
cute mic. And a worthwhile investment. Certainly, it's easy for me to take back and forth between the office, and it does make a big difference in being able to really get a better quality out of your video broadcast.
Totally.
So that's the basics of running, a show. Right there is the video switching and the sound. The next important feature to jump into is up there on the top left window is what we call scenes. And scenes, again, in Ecamm, you can control any of the features through that top menu where John is hovering, or any of the windows that are surrounding the main window. So scenes are really how you plan out your run of show within Ecamm. So whether that's, again, a full level, huge production with multiple guests and camera angles and tons of graphics, or it could be as simple as you're, broadcasting, a training or teaching someone how to use something, and it's just you and it's really simple. Scenes is a great way to get all that content planned out in advance so that when you jump on and do your live or your broadcast, you already have the flow of your show ready to go. You don't have to worry about where any files are or how things
Hmm.
are looking. Um, and you can create individual scenes, or you can create folders of scenes. So if you're someone that has a couple of different shows, or maybe you work with clients and you want to be able to break things out and save them, our folders is a great way to do that. You can have as many scenes as you want, hundreds of scenes. You can have tons of different folders to store things in. Ecamm remembers where all your files are and will flag you if it somehow is disconnected with a file. So you don't need to worry about uploading anything here into these specific folders. Ecamm is finding where you've said that the file is. So if you have a logo graphic, saved somewhere else, you can either drag and drop it in, or you can upload it into a scene, and Ecamm will be able to find that later. Um, yeah, see, I mean, scenes are really foundational. The software is designed to work either way works best for you. So if you're a planner like I am and you want to run through scenes, you can have all of that. But if you just want to go live and you're doing an announcement or you're doing something on the fly, you can absolutely just use the video switcher, or drag and drop, or do anything within the main window while you're live. So there's no prerequisite for needing to use scenes. They're just helpful to be able to get yourself organized and have the content.
No,
Um,
I think the scenes are helpful though. I mean, it
yeah.
does add some structure to the process.
Hmm.
To your point, right? And I think that's key to
Yeah.
kind of when you're going through this is the scenes and the different components. Is when you're trying to create
Hmm.
like what we're doing today, or just going through a more formalized type where you are
Yeah.
maybe managing a production. So I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, and it helps keep you on track as well. I think particularly when you're live, it can be really easy to get distracted, or, people are leaving
Hmm.
comments and you get kind of caught up in other conversations. But, everyone out there who is live streaming or just creating videos, you want to keep on track. You have value that you want to bring to the viewer. So being able to outline those scenes, I find, is a really helpful way to keep you on track. Like if you're sitting on this scene, for example, and the next one's called like, top three things to know, like it'll
You're
remind
right.
you that there were things that you wanted to say and things that you wanted to be able to share with your audience, and kind of helps reset the flow of your show without you necessarily needing to have a teleprompter or notes written out ahead of you. So it's kind of a nice way to both plan and keep on track of everything that you need to get done, which is great.
Very cool.
um, yeah, so scenes is a great starting point, not as sexy as some of our other features, but I think a really foundational part of the software. The next one right below it is what we call overlays. And so an overlay is anything that you are laying on top of your video file, or your camera source, or your scene. So it could be something like this frame that's sitting around me and around John. That's an overlay. It could be a piece of text. So maybe you're just having someone's name is an overlay. It could be, we have what we call a scrolling ticker. So you could do like a CNN style, like line of text that moves across the bottom of the screen, a video clip, an animated graphic, a GIF, a countdown timer. All of these are located in our overlays menu. Most of the overlays in Ecamm Live are things that you're going to be designing or developing, or hiring out and bringing into the software. So you would be, saving a logo somewhere else and dragging and dropping it in.
Hmm.
But with the text overlays, the countdown timers, the scrolling text, a couple of those things, you can actually create those right within Ecamm Live, and you can control things like the font uh, choice, the font size, move. Yeah, there you go. You can
Yep.
add in any of your branded colors. You can add emoji. So, you have a little bit of functionality and flexibility here. If you're just getting started, maybe you haven't really hired out a designer yet, or design skills are just not your thing. This is a great way to still give a bit of a customized professional look without needing to really break the bank or spend a ton of time. And again, you can do these in advance or you can do them on the fly. And there's a lot of functionality there as well. So, the software is designed to help you hit the ground running, whether you're just starting out and you know nothing about live streaming, but
Right.
also be really something that will level up with you as you get better and as you start investing in more gear and perhaps a bigger team, or increased graphics. So that's what overlays are. Again, in the same way like scenes, you can do them on the fly. You can build them into scenes. Those little eyeballs on the right of all the different overlays that John has here on the screen, that allows you to turn them on and off. So, if you want to slide them off the screen, if you
Yep.
want to put them on or off, you can just toggle them on or off. The little lock button locks an overlay into the window. So if you figured out exactly where you want it and you don't want to accidentally bump it while you're moving things around and controlling
Hmm.
your production, the lock is a nice way to be able to lock down an overlay. You can also lock a scene. And then the same way, if you've decided on the fly that you want to change something, you can just click that unlock button and decide to move it around again. So a lot of flexibility there in those two menus. Um, our newest overlay actually is what we are calling a camera overlay. This one's a little bit different than the overlay, so it's worth mentioning here as kind of a fun feature to play around with. The camera overlay lets you put a camera feed, so it could be a guest coming in like I am today, or another camera. Maybe it's your phone or a different camera angle, and you can actually put that anywhere that you want on the main window and in a variety of different shapes. So you can have a circle or a tall shape, a wide shape, a square. So
Hmm.
it lets you create any kind of layout that you're interested in creating. So you can have just like a plain, black background, or maybe it's a background with like your logo on step and repeat kind of style. You can layer on video feeds in any style that you want, so that you can really create any kind of design that makes your broadcast stand out and look a lot more unique than just these kind of um, very standard split screen or four up designs that you would see in most productions. So depending on the flow or the feel of your show, it's kind of a cool way to be able to add some creativity and add some of your own style and flair to your broadcast, and give you a lot of flexibility as well, especially if you have, three guests, for example. Sometimes having three people across can make it a little bit tight. So you could have them as circles,
Right.
or you
Yeah.
could shift those camera displays around.
And that's kind of cool, by the way. I like, uh, as I was telling Katie here just a bit ago, I upgraded to Big Sur, so I'm making some updates, and so I'm actually going through the camera overlays myself, and it's been very. I really like it. It adds a lot of. It just gives you some flexibility in terms of
Yeah.
how you want to shape and do certain things and set up an overlay and
Hmm.
customize that. And I think that, up to your point, absolutely, Ecamm has done a great job of trying to provide some additional features that, outside the standard of just a plain vanilla type approach to it, you can do
Hmm.
that, as Katie's talking about. But I think, Katie, to your point, you can say, like, okay, you can step it up if you want to, as you kind of move
Yeah.
along in different stages.
Yeah. I think as you start, I think it is amazing sort of when you're first diving into it. A lot of it is like, okay, what's the gear? How can I get my quality looking as good as possible? How
Mm-hmm.
do I deal with just some of the nerves and the feelings around the idea of going live? Is anyone going to watch? What kinds of questions are they going to ask? And then I think as you get a little bit more into it and start figuring out like what your voice is, how your brand is coming to life with video, what kind of information you want to convey, it's at that point that you start really thinking through like, okay, what is the flow of my show? How do I want it to look? What kinds of assets do I need? Do I want a little lower third
Mm-hmm.
animated title that's going to come across? And do I want things like Justin Brown, who's like one of our favorite YouTubers out there? his newest videos have this like amazing little animation of him walking across the screen and like pointing down for people to click the like button, and he's
Oh,
like
I
doing
like
the little
that.
thumbs up, and
I should go check
yeah,
that
it's so
out.
like yeah, it's
That'd
awesome.
be
So,
cool.
and little things like that that capture attention, those all come in as animated overlays or little video files that you can just drag and drop into your broadcast. And that just comes from doing it often enough and thinking through like what action you want your viewers to take and how you can visually display that on screen, in a way that makes sense for your brand and in a way that's not distracting or disruptive, but just a lot of fun and stands out from the crowd. So there's lots you can do, and as you start building it and thinking about it, it's just a matter of figuring out like, okay, what do I want to do? How do I sketch that out? And 99.9% of the time you can do it within the software. It's flexible enough to let you kind of figure out what works best for you and be able to bring that in. So
Very
those are
cool.
overlays. Sound effects is another feature. It's pretty self-explanatory. We do a ton of different sound effects. We have a
You
lot of
do.
sound effects that you can trigger from there within the menu. Um, a couple things to look out for when you're playing around with sound effects is just to make sure that you own the rights of any of the sound that you're playing, whether it's a song or a sound effect, or you subscribe to a service like Epidemic Sound or some of the copyright-free services. But we give you the ability to, like an overlay, you can add a sound effect to any kind of scene. You can just layer it on. You can turn it on or off in a scene. So yeah, you can really play around with sound in a variety of different ways.
Yes.
Um,
That's there you go. We can just
I
give
like it.
people. So to Katie's point, I actually am a customer of Epidemic Sound.
Oh, good. I love that
So
effect.
I am a customer of Epidemic Sound. So you can kind of just add some. You can
Yeah,
break it up, and kind of do that. So it's kind of like, and to your point, absolutely. Somebody who's been in doing this on my side for some time and along with others is that from a copyright perspective, you do want to make
yeah,
sure you use royalty free. And so Epidemic Sound, Motion Array has something out there. There's several different organizations now that provides a royalty
yeah,
free. You pay for that. And that allows you to incorporate that as part of your, and so when you see the
yeah,
songs I have here, these are all from Epidemic Sound.
yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, so let's go over to camera effects, which is on the bottom right-hand side there. So camera effects is actually pretty cool because you can control the effects not only for your own camera, but for guests that are coming in as well. And so this will let you do things like zoom and pan in and out of the shot. You can move the camera angle around so that you can make sure that you're centered on frame. You can control things like the brightness of a camera shot, as well as things like the tint and all of the different colors. So you have a lot of kind of flexibility and an ability here to do that within the app without needing to kind of mess around with your camera too much, which is nice. You can also do things like mirror your shot. You can make yourself go upside down, which we have a couple of customers who just love because it's super strange when people are scrolling through the feed. It's kind of off-putting and I think captures attention.
That's very funny.
Um, so yeah, a lot of functionality in there. We do also have our own chroma key or green screen. This is a little bit different than what you would see in a Zoom software, for example, in that you actually physically have to have the color green behind you. So you have to have a physical green screen that you're either pulling up or hanging a green sheet behind you or a green painted wall. The reason for that is just that we offer a much higher quality than a virtual background remover. So we're really giving you like a very crisp, clean look. So you can use green screen really effectively within this app. And you can do either a solid, like a static image, or a video clip behind you. So a lot of flexibility there. It is somewhat easy to look campy, so it's something to kind of really think through and again kind of figure out like what kind of message are you trying to get out there? Is there a reason you're using green screen? A lot of
Yeah.
our pro users will use green screen for giving a presentation. So maybe they want themselves and their video feed to be, in the bottom corner, and they will actually use green screen to cut themselves out. So they just have no background. It's just themselves on a transparent background, and then it looks like they're actually in their presentation. So it's a really nice way to kind of give a little bit more of a higher level presentation than just sort of showing slides without you being there. So lots of options there. And again, you can use any of the presets that we have within the app, or you can drag and drop in any files that you own or that you purchase copyright free or
Yes.
copyright permissions.
Again, copyright. Make sure the photos don't go
Yeah.
on Getty Images or Google Images
No,
and start downloading stuff. And
we are
that's
not
just,
responsible for anything that you put
yeah,
back in there. But we did send the guys last time they were on vacation. Our co-founders got a whole bunch of really beautiful videos of like soothing palm trees and the waves. So you can use those to your heart's content. We have those uploaded in the app. If you want to be in a beachy background, it's kind of a fun option there. But yes, camera effects will let you do all kinds of things, including some more high level things like LUTs, which let you really customize and kind of give a really beautiful look to your video feed. So there's lots and lots of different options within there. And again, you just need to choose the camera source. So that could be yourself. It could be any of the different cameras you have in your video switcher, including guests. So John has full ability to mess with my screen, zoom me way in, zoom me way out, change my color, flip me upside down,
so
any kind
yeah,
of craziness
exactly.
he wants to
I
do.
can make,
Yeah,
let's see here. We can make Katie really, really warm it up or do some saturation. We can tone it down a
yeah,
bit,
yeah.
right? We
There you
can
go.
change the gamma. We can darken it up.
Yeah.
We can lighten it up, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of different options there. And now, just to her point, I really like these features. It's actually pretty slick. And to her, and on the green screen, and just some of the features that Ecamm has added, uh, does give you a lot of functionality.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I've kind of talked to people about the difference between, a hardware production switcher will have a lot of these features in there, but what you're providing from a software perspective is enabling a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the traditional, features and controls and functions from a hardware
Mm-hmm.
perspective into a software type application. And, I've been very, very impressed. And even some of the updates that they've done, where you can kind of like she said, kind of like bring another person in and, do some really
Mm-hmm.
creative things that kind of just uh, bring something up. And I think from the camera effects, from a webcast producer side, one of the biggest challenges we have is we record things and we do certain things, and then in post we have to go back and do color editing,
Yeah.
right? And all that
Yeah.
stuff. If I can do some of that function in here ahead of
Mm-hmm.
time, it saves a lot of time in post that I have to go back and edit and
Yeah.
clean up, whether it's in Premiere or Final Cut. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean the goal really with, we were predominantly created as a live streaming software, but I think that there are a lot of people that use either the recording only feature or they just take the recording after their live stream and then they're able to, to be able to repurpose that content pretty quickly and easily without needing to go back and do a ton of editing. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
able to do things like, trigger different video clips or cool different like animations that come into your video, you can do all of that while you're live or while you're creating the video. Then you don't need to go back later and add any of those elements in or do a lot of post-production work. I mean, ideally, the video quality and the flow of the video just looks and sounds exactly the way it needs to be while you're doing it, so that
Yep.
on the other side of it, we've just saved you a ton of time, especially people who are, one-man bands or they're not really, they don't have that skill set, so it just saves them having to hire out a video editor or having to go through a long process to be able to get the end result that they're looking for.
Absolutely.
It's there and you can be able to use it however you like.
Absolutely. Totally. No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think that makes a big difference. It is, to your point on the live streaming side, I mean, a lot of people ask the question, like, well, I think that's kind of been one of the challenges. We've talked about that with
Mm-hmm.
the new norm of sorts, is that, yes, there's the live streaming component, but with these additional features, it does add another
Mm-hmm.
layer of the next stage of developing a skill and your
Mm-hmm.
competency on it. And for those that haven't done it, in fact, for everybody that will be watching this one, from Ecamm's done a phenomenal job of partnering with people to provide videos, overlays. They've got a community on Facebook, right? I mean, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that you guys have added, and just unique approaches to help support the community as a whole as people leverage and sign up to subscribe to the platform
Yeah.
and do those things.
Yeah, we're really proud of our community. We have I think it's almost 12, if not 12,000
Wow,
strong in our Facebook group, which is just astounding.
that's
And
awesome.
almost all of them are active contributors. So when you hit that group, you have people who, like you, may just be starting out, but you have people there that have been doing it from the very beginning, and they're sharing tips and tricks. Many times they're sharing graphics or resources for free. We
Mhm.
bring in a ton of companies that we work really closely with who do special masterclass level trainings to teach you on all the different softwares that work alongside Ecamm. We do a lot of different promotions and specials on any other kinds of different tools and things that will help to improve your broadcast. So it's a great space to just sort of ask questions, play, see what other people are doing, learn from each other. It's just a really kind of highly visual space, and somehow our moderators keep it from getting really too crazy. So it never
They do a good
ceases to
job.
amaze me that it stays a really positive space. So if you're looking for a place just to kind of learn a bit more, play around, there's always something going on in that group, which is just a great place. So
Absolutely.
Ecamm Live, if you search on Facebook, it is a group where it's off of our Facebook page as well.
That is very slick. No, I think it's been fantastic. I think somebody Bradley teaches is one of them that
Mm-hmm.
talks about using Keynote, and he
Mm-hmm.
started out trying to just do this because his background was a graphic designer, and he had done. We had talked. I followed up with him, and Bradley talked about, this is my background, this is kind of what I've done, and I just thought, I'll see if this helps other people, right? Now it's
Yeah.
kind of opened up a new opportunity for him to help contribute towards the community for
Mm-hmm.
Ecamm users, and provide ways and means to use an overlay or customize your own overlay like we talked about, and add a
Yeah.
countdown timer. I mean, just different effects you can add from a that makes it unique to what you want to do for your own live stream, or
Yeah.
like Katie says, recording, right?
Yeah.
And doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing the amount of kind of shows and courses and tutorial videos that have just come out of, members trying it and being like, oh, I can give back to this community. That, there are things
Yeah,
that I've learned from it, and this is what I want to be able to give back. So it's been awesome to see. Bradley's a great example of that. Um,
very cool.
all right, I think that brings us back to the next kind of the sort of the last main feature, and then we can talk about some of the ones that are a little harder for us to show
Sure.
visually. But the last main feature is our newest one, which is our interview feature. This is how I'm coming into this broadcast today. So you'll see that in the top right hand corner, excuse me, of this demonstration. So prior to October of this year, we had a pretty great integration with Skype, which always worked really well for us. It gave pretty good quality as far as bringing guests on. You could bring on as many guests as you want with it. All
Mm-hmm.
of that's still an existing option within Ecamm Live. I heard pretty loud and clear, especially as we moved into kind of this new normal and the pandemic was here, and people just needed to be able to bring other people remotely into their broadcasts without an additional app open, without having to do training or answering the nonstop question of like, oh, I don't have my Skype ID, or I don't use Skype anymore. I don't think I have that installed on my computer. So
Yes.
we heard all the complaints and the feedback on that. Um, and the guys created what I think is a really beautifully intuitive answer to this question. So our interview mode is completely built into Ecamm. So you just open it up as one of our windows. You'll see that there. And it works with a link. So you literally just generate a link. We have it hidden here in live demo mode so that none of you call into this broadcast
Right.
while we're
Yes.
recording. But right below that copy link button in the interview window, you would see your link, and you can send that out to anyone that you want to bring into your broadcast. They can join by just clicking the link and joining with a browser. So, Google Chrome or a Firefox, Safari, any of these browsers. And again, I mean, similar to you with live streaming or creating a video, they need to have a camera, can be built-in, can be on their phone, can be whatever, a camera and a microphone so that they can join the broadcast. And they just come in. It really is that easy. And we have a bunch of different functionality within the interview window to just, again, kind of take up the level of control and the level of quality. Doesn't matter where your guest is coming in from, or in some cases, even if their quality isn't ideal, you still have a bunch of control to be able to tweak that. So you
Mm-hmm.
can use the camera settings to kind of increase their brightness or maybe zoom in or out on them. You can use the microphone, the sound effect, the sound window to be able to mess with their sound a little bit if they're sounding a bit quiet, or you need to be able to play around with that a bit. We have automatic titles, so they enter their name when they join the broadcast, and so you can actually bring that right in automatically without needing to create any additional resources in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way as everything else within this software, you can plan it all completely out in advance using what we call placeholders. So you can plan out scenes with your guests. You can, build out the exact scene and plan everything. And then when your guest joins, you can just assign them to a guest placeholder so that it auto populates all of your pre-made scenes and you're ready to go. Or you can bring a guest in ad hoc completely while you're live and still have that, professional option to make them, solo on the main screen, to move them right or left. You can make them go into a picture in picture. You can have them share their screen, any of the kind of things that you would expect in a video conferencing element. So pretty
Right.
cool feature. And again, this works whether you are live streaming or you're creating a recording, or you can just bring a guest on without recording or live streaming and have a conversation or a team meeting. So it really, any aspect of how you want to use it, it's there for you to use. And we're constantly iterating and getting better as we get feedback from the group. It's been up and running for about a month or so now. The next up for this particular feature is building in a chat functionality. So being able to kind of talk back and forth with your guests behind the scenes or in the green room is what's upcoming next. But I'm sure as we keep hearing feedback, we'll keep building out additional resources for it.
Yeah, I think this is an awesome feature that you guys have put together. I mean, this has been fantastic. Just, and just the ability to natively through the Ecamm software and application to be able to do this and to provide that outside of Skype, and absolutely Skype's still out there. There's other ways to do that. There's different ways you can pull, and NDI is one of the functionalities of being able to do that support that transport. So that this has been, I'm enjoying kind of getting to understand this and learn even more and do all that.
Yeah, I think it's really nice because especially for us as a Mac-based software, this opens it up a little bit for our users. And so, certainly we're all Apple fans and Mac
Yes.
users here in the Ecamm world, but guests can come in from any kind of device, from any computer. They can come in on a tablet, they can come in on their phone. It's all browser based, so this gives a little bit more flexibility for some of our hosts who might be trying to reach people while they're on the go, or or on a completely different kind of platform. They don't have to have Ecamm Live. They don't have to be a Mac user. They can come on just with a link. So I think it makes it a little bit more dynamic than than some of the other options that we've had out there, which has been good.
Totally.
Also, a couple other features here on the other side of the viewing window. As a guest, you're able to see the view count of how many people are watching if we were live, and you can see all the comments coming through. So you don't need to actually worry about having the broadcast itself open on your phone or on another window and be monitoring it that way. You can actually just see all the comments flowing into the comment window here just on your desktop. So it really allows you kind of focus on the broadcast itself and not have to worry about having a bunch of other options open in order to participate in the video itself. And I can see everything that that John is sharing, so I can see like his whole window right now. I also have the option new in our beta version, so about to be released here soon, is he can change it over so that I'm just looking directly at him. So if we're having maybe we're having like a really in-depth conversation and he doesn't want me as a guest to see all of the things that he might be putting out there in the broadcast, he would have the ability to do that. So there's a couple other views as well that we're adding in as we
Cool.
think through the different ways that people are using it. But yeah, I think a really cool feature, and probably a lot more iterations coming as we continue to hear feedback and develop it.
Absolutely. No, I think that's fantastic. And to Katie's point, I mean, it's like if I click on window, there is different options you can, which she's talking about comments and reactions, right? If we're streaming live, and I will be working on. I did one test stream to Twitch just to kind of test some different functions with somebody else that we were looking at.
Oh,
And
fun!
also,
Yeah.
So in the bandwidth and just different areas. So even though I have these set windows here,
Yeah.
if we were doing it live. Again, this comes back to as you kind of move to the next, somebody moves to the next stage, there's a lot of different options. And with the interview feature now, just being able to do that from a remote production or just kind of facilitate a conversation with whether I'm driving it or maybe two other individuals that I'm bringing into the conversation are doing it, right? and
Mm.
we're hosting that, and I'm hosting it as a kind of a discussion.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So right now for our interview feature, you can have 5 total people on screen. So you can have a host and then 4 remote guests. We may consider adding more people into that as we go forward, but I think that that's a good starting point for us to be able to really kind of make help people maintain the quality level that they're looking for, as well as be able to have the flexibility to create some really interesting panel discussions and broadcasts. So, and again, you can mix that with Skype if you want to. So if you want to, if you're, if you're trying to get on like 40 people into a huge, crazy broadcast, you can still do that. You can mix back and forth. So we haven't gotten rid of any features. Everything has just kind of been expanding as we move forward. So all of that functionality is still there.
Absolutely, absolutely, and to your point, I mean, there's additional, like, you can create the production, and then you can virtual
Mm-hmm.
cam that out to another
Mm-hmm.
type of, like, Zoom, or maybe it's integrating with Microsoft Teams.
Mm-hmm.
If you are doing some of the type of deal, and from a production perspective, from a live streaming, is not simply just individually, but if I'm
Yeah.
actually producing a show, right, an
Mm-hmm.
event. We can take all of these elements in here and then be able to output that into another area to provide exposure. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the virtual camera is a really powerful feature, and I think prior to releasing Interview, it was certainly our most popular of our
right.
kind of pro level features because it really lets you stand out from the crowd. I mean, if you're just on a Zoom call and you're you're sort of there, like there are things that you can do, and you have the ability to do kind of the basics, but if you've planned out like an entire virtual presentation and you're a speaker who's no longer out on the stage, you want to be able to make a splash and to really make a difference. And so having a lot of those overlays that you've brought in or video clips that you're running, and the
Mm-hmm,
power of having that kind of built out full presentation or full show, and then
mm-hmm,
just sending that to Zoom or to Teams or to Google Meet or to any of these other different platforms that you might be using is just really powerful. We have
totally.
a lot of teachers that use that a lot right now as they're trying to create lessons. So they're not necessarily live streaming, but they want to be able
Right.
to, have that functionality and have the ability to kind of bring in all of those different things. It just makes it pretty easy. And then the other the pro options that are there are things like audio and video monitoring. So if you have like a really big setup, maybe your church, for example, those kinds of things are really important for another team member to be able to watch the feed and listen to make sure that nothing is going wrong. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those settings are also within the app. A little bit more difficult for us to show you,
Yes.
as well as NDI, which you talked about. So we have full integration both for NDI inputs as well as NDI outputs. So all of that is an option as well.
So I think it's just in the time that we've covered here, just from you going over this, I think everybody kind of sees, like, there's a lot, but I think
It's a lot. It's a
it
lot,
is a lot,
guys.
and it's
Yeah.
like, but that there's depth to it, and I think
Hmm.
that to your point on and I'll speak to this from my perspective, because this is somewhat of whether people view it as biased or unbiased. But listen, there are platforms, because of the new norm, that have been used for, in regards to the Zoom and Teams and other platforms. I think one of the areas that, in terms of the interview feature that Katie's sharing about and talking about specifically, what's really good about that is it does provide you a better way of managing that process.
Hmm.
And while you can support these other platforms, I think that there's a area here of value, to your point, Katie, of
Hmm.
of where we have a way of being able to deliver a live stream or a certain level of production value and manage the quality a little bit better than if
Hmm.
we were to try to do something. While those platforms have been out there for a long time, they were developed for a certain purpose and
Yeah.
process, right? I mean, they weren't intended to be a live streaming platform. It was more of a collaboration, conferencing type
Yeah.
set of
Yeah, I
solutions.
think it's really important to keep that in mind. I mean, everyone would love it if there was just one piece of software that did virtually everything. That
Yeah,
would be great, right? If
that
we
would be
only had to
awesome.
spend like
Right,
one lump of money on one
right,
thing that did absolutely everything that we needed to do. But there is a reason why, different software was created for different reasons. So, like Zoom is fantastic at video conferencing. Like how they do video conferencing in large groups, that is what they are great at. They saw that there was potential in live streaming as things were starting to shut down and people wanted to be able to broadcast live, and so that's something that they've built on, but that's not what they
mhm,
were developed for. In
right.
the same way that we were not developed to be, an internal communication system. We're not Slack, we're not Zoom, we're not, and so we have the ability to function alongside that, but our tool is built for video creation and live streaming. That's what we are the best at. And so I think the ability to use tools together in ways that work for your workflow is really great. I think it's up to you as a user to figure out what are you trying to accomplish, and what are the
Mhm.
best tools to get you there, and how do they work together, or maybe in some cases they don't, and then they're not the right tools for you. So it's really important for you to think through that, and think through that workflow, and understand what each tool was built to do. So it would be great if we did virtual summits, but really, like, you're still going to need another tool to take those names and to be that content management system, because that's not what we were built for. So it is important to kind of think that through. And I know that that's a hard thing to think through. Believe me, we do it ourselves all the time
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
on our mini marketing team here. But yeah, it is worth noting. So there's a lot that Ecamm can do, and the more stuff that we have built in, certainly the better. And we're always trying to improve the process. But there are a lot of tools out there that are absolutely fantastic that we work really closely with, and there's a reason why we work closely with them, and we don't have our own version of that within the app. So,
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's true for the whole process, right? That's been kind of the
hmm
key. So I think that's been about, and if you're a church and or an organization and you're trying to like NDI, we talk about NDI, one good
hmm
example is NDI enabled cameras, and those are high
hmm
tilt zoom cameras, right? And then
yeah,
I can take those. So there's a lot of different options in-house as well as what we're doing outside from an outbound perspective and doing what's required. But absolutely to your point, you're absolutely right, is you really need to think about what it is you want to do
hmm
and what you want to try to start with first, because it does take some time to develop a kind of workflow and a process. And knowing that Ecamm, to Katie's point, has partnered with other organizations, right?
hmm
That's just part of I call the solution workflow.
hmm
Not everybody's going to be able to do everything in box or in app, right?
yeah,
It's just not
yeah,
a reality. And so the good news is that the ability to see, what Ecamm provides, but also see other solutions that, in conjunction with Ecamm, can provide a
hmm
much more well-rounded type of approach that will fit maybe a specific need for an organization or an event or whatever it may be.
yeah,
So
definitely. I think Restream is actually a great example of that within our own app, where
yeah,
we're never it's never going to make sense for us as a software team to build out the functionality for multi-streaming to like 40 different locations. It's just not
yes,
doesn't make sense for us. We're a software that sits on your computer, so we just destroy the power of your computer pretty quickly.
right.
But having the built-in integration with Restream, it's super easy. It's not crazy expensive to have that as an add-on, and be able then to take your feed out, all over the place, and still have all of the functionality that you want within Ecamm. It's a really nice partnership, and it works really, really well. So things like that, I think, are worth considering as you're thinking through, like, where, what kind of content do you want to create? How do you want
Mm-hmm.
to plan that out?
Mm-hmm.
How can you pull things in within the tool? And then where
Mm-hmm.
do you want to go? How do you want to be able to interact with your viewers and build that audience, and build that community? So
No, that's
certainly
true.
always
Absolutely.
always good to think it out and plan it out. And tools like you can make it a lot easier for you to be able to have that plan and actually activate against it.
Well, yeah, and real quick, I know as we kind of wrap up, we look at these things. I think what Katie's pointing to is, I think there's two functions that we're talking about here for people to understand. Is there's the interface of the production of what I'm doing here on the system and everything else. And to Katie's
Hmm
point on Restream and some of the other providers out there, that's what we call more of a video backhaul or CDN type service. And that's where
hmm
basically I'm taking that service and it's providing additional functionality for me to deliver out in a multicast or simulcast way. That could be
hmm
YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or to a third-party CDN out
hmm
there for me to be able to multicast out. And that's an additional area of expertise and set of services that is rather broad and large, right? Because we're talking about
yeah,
edge type connections and like
yeah,
that. So as
yeah,
Katie and I talk through this, that's really what we're talking about is, you know, Ecamm and its ability to do is doing what you're doing locally, as well as what it can do to connect from a one-to-one perspective. But to a
hmm
one-to-many approach, that's where a Restream or another service out there is going to provide me an ability to go do that and have scale, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
and that
absolutely.
and obviously Restream, and I've used them over the past several years. They've got a great product, right? And
Hmm.
so, it just gives me further expansion of being able to say, okay, with confidence, I can go do these set of services outside of, what I'm doing here, and then send it over there, and then basically maximize the reach in terms of,
Yeah.
the breadth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do we miss anything? I'm looking through the menu here to see if there's anything that I missed. I mean, there's certainly a couple of other different um, smaller features, but I think we covered all the major features. But
We
I would
did.
encourage any of you watching that if you want to learn more, or or you're like, okay, this looks exciting, but I'm also a little overwhelmed. We get it. We totally understand that it can be a bit of an overwhelming process as you're getting started. That's why we have a great community of people. And seriously, like even if you're not sure that you would ever sign up for this software, but you want to get a better feel of what you could do, or you want to
Hmm.
just take a look, just come hang out in our community. You don't have to be a subscriber. You can be on a PC. We're not judging. You can
Yeah,
come hang
no,
out
that's true.
and just
I'm a
check out what
PC
other
guy.
people do. Yeah, and learn from each other. So it's certainly worth jumping in and taking a look and seeing what's possible, because it can feel a little overwhelming when you're first starting off, but once you figure out what value you have to bring and how you can connect with people, it's pretty powerful what you can accomplish these days. So worth checking
Absolutely.
out.
No, I totally agree. And we'll provide some links in the
Hmm.
description of this recording that will make sure and get you connected over to the Ecamm side, and be able to do that, because I think that, to Katie's point, they've got a lot of information available, and, try it out. And that's actually how I
Yeah.
started. That's actually, I am a Windows guy, but, I was using Macs and doing that. So,
Hmm.
that's just part of my past experience. But, since I've been using this over the several months, and doing some other activities, this has been a great solution, especially for the Mac platform,
Yeah.
and providing some ability to do that. So, Katie, thank you so much for the time
Oh,
you have
so fun. Thank
spent.
you.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's fantastic, and hopefully maybe we can have Katie back in the future here to have
Yeah,
another,
definitely.
separate conversation and talk about some additional areas of the product, right? And some other thoughts and considerations. I think that the goal of that we have here, and kind of going through Ecamm and taking this time, is kind of sharing some thought leadership, right? Sharing some experiences. Katie's
Hmm.
coming from the Ecamm side. I'm coming at it from the webcast producer, the TD, technical director or tech guy, that's
Hmm.
been responsible. And I think one of my goals when I stepped away, kind of not away, but aside from my role at full time with Harvest Ministries, was again that experience of where people are at, where were people pivoting
Yeah.
to, and some of these solutions, and what can and cannot be done. And I've been really impressed with Ecamm. Again, full disclosure, I'm a customer, but I've loved it. And Katie's been fantastic. The community's been fantastic. And we love to help you get connected with them in the
Hmm.
platform, and determine, what would, check it out. It doesn't hurt to take
Yeah,
it,
definitely.
do the trial, figure it out,
Hmm.
questions that come up. So, Katie, thank you again.
Of
I really
course. Yeah.
appreciate it, and all the best to you and the team as you guys kind of continue to work on this, and move forward in this really unpredictable year that we've been through.
Yeah, we're at least we're near the end of 2020, right? I mean, we're getting to the end of it, so
I hope
maybe
so.
things will get better.
I hope
Oh my
so.
goodness. Well, yes, thank you, and thanks to everyone for watching. And don't be a stranger. We're a small team, but we're really incredibly excited to talk to customers and potential customers and people who care about video and live streaming. So send us some questions, jump into our community, follow us. We'd love to hear your feedback.
That's great. Thank you, Katie. Thanks everybody for joining with us and taking the time to watch this. Again, any comments, share away. It really helps with
Hmm.
the algorithms, with like on the YouTube platform, right? And it helps all of
Hmm.
us too, not only from the algorithms, but for Katie and for all of us that are involved in this process, because we're here to help support you. And that's part of, Ecamm's coming at from, and Katie from her side. I'm coming at from a services side, and helping share these Chalk Talk sessions to help provide some input and consideration. But also, if you need anything or have any questions about live streaming, production,
Mhm.
Ecamm, what would it look like? Cameras, things, let me know. I'm happy to
Yeah.
do whatever I can to facilitate that. So thanks everybody for joining. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay well.